Now, you say, well, okay, this is a very interesting academic lecture you're giving us here, but what's this have to do with the U.S.? Well, I'll tell you something. The U.S. is absolutely no different. Oh, I didn't say America, did I? I said the U.S. Remember, America and the U.S. are now different. They're now bifurcated. Oh, okay. I think I can speed it up. There's a standard distribution of sociopaths across space and time in all countries. And it's Paretos Law. Are you all familiar with Paretos Law, that 80-20 rule? 20% of your salesmen give you 80% of your sales. 20% of the people give you 80% of your problems. You know, that 80-20 rule, okay? My personal belief is that 80% of people are basically decent. Get along, go along, okay people. Problem is, when you apply Pareto's Law, you find that 20% of the population are at least potential trouble sources. They can go either way. When the lights go out, when the rains come, those bed bugs appear. But they're usually hiding. And the real problem is the 20% of that 20%. These are the real bad actors. And they all wind up in the government, big corporations, and the media. Because that's where the power is, and that's what they like. Now, why do Americans accept this situation? I'll tell you why. It's because Americans don't have any philosophical anchor. They got some religion, they got some poppycock they learned in school. They don't know anything about philosophy or economics or morality. They never think about it, okay? It's not on television. And as I've said, they're basically stupid, all right? The second thing is, they lack intelligence and they lack courage, okay? They're basically limp dicks. They're all whipped dogs. And this bullshit about, oh, America's different. Well, America's different. The United States is different. We're the land of the free and the home of the brave. That's nothing but propaganda to make them feel good at baseball games. Now, upcoming here, you're going to have a new president, okay? So let's talk about that. It should be a totally unimportant thing. It should be like the president of the Swiss Confederation. Nobody knows who he is, nobody cares, and that's the way it ought to be. I mean, my favorite president, in case you want to know, is William Henry Harrison, because he died after 30 days and there wasn't enough time for him to do any significant damage. And Washington, D.C. is where these people gravitate. And Washington, D.C. draws these people like a giant pile of dog crap jaws flies, and that's exactly what Washington is. I used to tell the joke about there's nothing wrong with Washington that a 50 megaton blast on the Capitol couldn't cure, but I don't say that anymore, both because I could be jailed, and number two, because I don't believe it. What you really need is a 10 megaton blast on the Capitol and 4 more 10 megaton blasts in a quadrant 10 miles out, because it's spread like a cancer so much. So, who's going to be your president? You got two possibilities. You got a Demopublican or a Republicrat. And the one of them says they believe in social freedom, but they sure as hell don't believe in economic freedom. And the other one says they believe in economic freedom, but they sure as hell don't believe in social freedom. And of course, they're pathological liars, both of them, on all regards. So who are your people choices? Well, you got an old white man who's hostile and mildly demented, and then you got a smarmy, slick young black man. So I think Obama's going to win. Why? Because he's a better rabble-rouser, number one, and number two, because he's much better at promising to give your money, because you guys all have some money, to all those people who don't deserve it. Over 50% of the American people now are net recipients of taxes. The average American is not your countryman, that you should stand up for and sing the Pledge of Allegiance with, or whatever the hell it is. They're your enemy. They're your enemy. They're much more your enemy than the average Iranian. The average Iranian doesn't cost you a nickel. Your average American costs you half of your income, and it will be half of your income in the next couple of years. So it's very much like in the Roman Empire. After Augustus, you had after they had Tiberius, and they said, oh, God, I'm glad that jerk is gone. It can't get any worse. And then they had Claudius. God, that was terrible. Can it get any worse? No. Oh, Caligula was the next one. And then, well, how can it get worse than Caligula? Well, then it was Nero. And it was like that. So we had Clinton and Bush and Obama. It's the same degraded theme. And one of my favorite comedians who I'm getting to replace in my mind, George Carlin, who's unfortunately dearly departed, is Carlos Mencia. I love Carlos. And Carlos, a year ago, very shrewd guy, was doing a skit on the swearing in of Obama. And he has Obama standing there looking like the Harvard graduate he is, and Michelle looking like Jackie Kennedy over here, and all this type of thing. And the Supreme Court justice swears them in, and Obama looks over. Are we through? Supreme Court justice says yes. Obama turns around, fluffs up his hair like Al Sharpton. It's on now, bitches! And Michelle's over here. She transforms herself into a welfare mother and says, oh yeah. It was a very funny skit that Carlos did, but it's completely accurate. Now, I'm not going to have time to cover all the other things I want to cover, actually, because it's fun to have questions and answers, so let's do that. Let me just say that the situation is hopeless. That's the bad news. But the good news is that it's not serious. Life will go on. It's been going on during the worst disasters in human history. And it still goes on. So don't worry about that. I figured that the U.S. is going to disappear as a nation state in the next couple of generations. I'm hoping it will. I think it will. But then nation states themselves are going to disappear. It was one of the most stupid ways of organizing themselves people have ever come up with. It's that you have to be loyalty to this ridiculous political entity, of which there are 225 or something in the world, just because of an accident of birth and being born there. Well, it was an improvement over the previous thing, which was kingdoms. You have to be loyal to some individual who's usually a degenerate, but people, whip dogs as they are, they usually are loyal to whoever they're told to be loyal to. And then we can talk about democracy, which is really just a circle jerk where everybody attempts to live at the expense of everybody else. And it's mob rule in a sports coat. We can talk about patriotism, which is the stupid belief that my country is the best country in the world because I was born here. So I think that what's going to happen is people are going to reorganize themselves in the future into what you call files, from Neil Stephenson's seminal book, Diamond Age, where he came through with that concept, where your loyalty, thanks to the internet and jet travel and so forth, is not to people that are in your little medieval village that you can't get away from, but I've got more loyalty to friends of mine in the Congo than I do to the average American. Why? Because I share values with them. And in the future, there will be thousands of files of people that will find and seek each other out according to whatever is important to them. For some, it'll be their race, some it'll be their culture, some will be hobbies, occupation. For me, it'll be a sense of life and philosophy and so forth. And these people will identify themselves and they'll form protective organizations and replace the nation state. Good riddance. Needs to be flushed. So, anyway, I guess in summary, as we enter upon the Greater Depression, if I come back here next year, I expect that you're going to be in the midst of economic chaos, and it's going to get worse from there. But I've been wrong before about economic predictions, so just forget I said that. All I can say is, it's on now, bitches.